Welcome back to Stack Hunters. Bradley Stalder, Dan Williamson here in the midst of an FFPC Big Gorilla live draft. We are recording this, so we're going to talk openly about some of the picks. Dan and I are competing against each other. I am in the 12 hole. Dan, you are at the 3 hole, correct?
Yes, very convenient. So we don't interfere with each other. And also, when you're busy drafting, I can be busy talking and vice versa. So it's all good.
The nice thing is we are so far away, so that allows a little bit of time. One of behind the scenes, if you are not familiar with how podcasting works, it's kind of tough to draft and podcast at the same time. Hats off to those people who grind it day in, day out and offer very strong analysis. But it is a challenge. It's a major challenge to both draft, offer strong analysis, and then concentrate on the pick at hand, Dan. It is it's good to have a partner with it. It's even more difficult if you have to do it by yourself.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But there is always one lubricant that helps out.
Drinking and drafting. All right. Thanks, Dan, for that piece of advice. We just had an auto pick at number 6, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I don't know if Todd's in the room or not.
That would be tough. But we saw go off at number 1 to the deep end. Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson to Theo at number 2. You took Brock Bowers at number 3. This is tight end premium. So we will see what tight ends are available. I think there's really a top 2, in my opinion. I know that the market sees Brock Bowers significantly ahead of Trey McBride, but that's not how I see it, Dan. I see them as co-equals, a 1A, 1B sort of scenario where you see touchdown regression happen for one or the other, and it could be one. But you have to respect, I think, both players' target shares, their roles in the offense. And even though I think Vegas added a little bit more this year to their receiver room, I still think Bowers and McBride are going to go head-to-head here.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's basically, if I wanted a tight end here, it was Bowers or McBride. McBride would have really been planting a flag. And it was kind of tempting to do, but no, I'm going with Bowers. Basically, the idea in this particular draft especially is you're not going to win the draft in the first round, but you can definitely lose the draft in the first round. And by that, I mean, perhaps a player that gets injured, things like that, so I'm definitely going to skew towards younger players away from like a Saquon Barkley. Totally understand why Todd took him at the 6 hole because, you're starting to get a little bit of value on him there. But and Bradley goes Trey McBride, which I was darn near positive he was going to do. A little bit less sure about this pick, but I've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of time. I knew I wanted to get McBride there, but then I have to, readjust the rankings now that now that everyone is off.
All right, yeah, and rounding out the rest of the first round, I'll just go through the whole first round. We had Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Brock Bowers by me at 3, Justin Jefferson at 4, Ashton Genty at 5, Saquon 6, CeeDee Lamb, Jahmyr Gibbs, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Bradley ends it with Trey McBride. And he has 9 seconds to take Nico Collins.
Nico Collins. Love me some Nico. Big Nico believer. He is the number 5 player in my best ball value rating, just behind Jefferson and Chase. So he's my wide receiver 3. Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley ahead of him, of course, but the Houston Texans did a little bit to address their offensive line. They also got other pieces, and you have to think last year there were opportunities where Nico Collins was called back for big time touchdowns. And yes, they get Jaden Higgins. Yes, they get Jalen Noel, but I'm not worried about those guys. They fill in some of that Dalton Schultz piece, some of the Christian Kirk piece, some of the uh, like they fill in some of that gap, and like Stephon Diggs leaves, Tank Dell out for what we presume the season. I like Nico Collins as the alpha of alphas. He's a big dude, 26% target share last year, and this is a set it forget it type of move. I'm happy with Nico Collins.
Yeah, it's tough to see how that pick goes wrong short of injury, and we're going to hope and assume that no players are getting injured here. So
can't play scared in the hard way draft, Dan.
You cannot, and there's no reason to really assume that he would get injured any more than anybody else around there. The one player that's gone in the second round so far, Christian McCaffrey, obvious injury risk there, but also the upside is so tantalizing. So. If McCaffrey plays a full season and Shanahan loads him up like he normally does, that's going to be a huge pick for John at the 202. So can't argue with that.
No, you cannot argue with that. We have so for those who are unfamiliar with this tournament, the Big Gorilla, $250 entry, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, but it is tight end premium, 2 flexes, a kicker, and a defense, and 10 on the bench. So, Dan, you've been an FFPC guy for many years in the high stakes streets. What are some of the things that you've taken away from like how you're roster constructing now that like you also have to have kickers and defense?
I'm sorry. Say that one again because
you are on the clock. I'm going to stall a little bit more. Remember, Dan drafted Brock Bowers, so both the Stack Hunters went tight end to start. And Dan goes Garrett Wilson there. Massive target share incoming for Garrett Wilson. My biggest question with Wilson is like, is the offense going to be good enough to get him the ball? Because Justin Fields, yes, he had a good season with DJ Moore, but is there anyone else, and are they going to be able to score any more points? That's my major question, and it's probably why he's not that 1-2 turn pick right now. But Dan, you had confidence to draft him at the 210. So what are your thoughts on Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, we've got the shower narrative or whatever with Justin Fields.
Yes,
these guys have played together before. He is, a lot of the things you were saying about Nico Collins, other than the size, are exactly true of Garrett Wilson. I mean, who else is taking targets on this team? You basically have a rookie tight end and a bunch of lawn chairs for receivers. And then Garrett Wilson. So
don't do Alan Lazard dirty like that.
Alan Lazard is not going to be on this team. As soon as Aaron Rodgers signs somewhere, the Jets are going to be like, just give us a 7th. We don't care. Give us anything. Give us, give us a jumbo-sized Kit Kat, and we're fine. Just they don't care.
Correction. I for those listening and viewing, this Big Gorilla is $350, not $250. It is the extra 100 that puts it over the top. Dan, we see the third tight end go off the board. George Kittle signs an extension, 4 years. He's 31 years old already. This is probably the last major contract that he signs for his career. I think he's fine going at the tight end 3. I think that's a good value there.
Yeah, I really like him there. I debated briefly whether I should take him or let him pass on around the horn. If he'd have still been there at the 303, I probably would have taken him, and go double bully tight end. But, that ship has sailed. I don't see myself, picking a tight end on this next pick. That's for sure. That's a little bit of a shocker for you there, I know. And
and you are up on the clock deciding the next move, and that's Terry McLaurin, wide receiver for Washington. Yep.
I think this passing game is going to take another step forward with Jaden Daniels. And McLaurin is going to be the one to benefit. I mean, he was already like what, wide receiver 7 or something like that on the season. He's got plenty of big weeks on his resume. So this is what we're looking for. This is not best ball. This is a managed league, and so I'm gonna be looking a little bit more at. I hate the word consistency because that's not a good thing to shoot for. You want points. You just want
Right.
points in your lineup, and McLaurin gives you those points in your lineup, but he also gives you some consistency as well.
Definitely. We look at year one with Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels. That connection will continue to grow stronger, I think. And then you also add Deebo Samuel, which I don't think will eat into Terry McLaurin's target share. Deebo Samuel traded to the Washington Commanders from the San Francisco 49ers. And Washington didn't really do a ton outside of that. They added a few pieces in the draft, but it's going to be McLaurin, it's going to be Deebo, and the running back situation there has just stayed steady, right? It's Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, a big winner in the from the NFL draft. Oh, we've got some picks coming up. We see, Josh Jacobs got auto-picked in the 3rd. But after your Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins, who I was hoping would fall, but, look, he's a solid round 3 pick there. Jackson Smith and Jigba is, of course, there. We see Kyron Chase Brown, who was a big draft winner, goes off the board. Xavier Worthy. I feel like Xavier Worthy was a big reach there, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it could be for sure. But on the other hand, I mean, this is a player who really started to put it together at the end of the season and the playoffs. He's got a world-class quarterback. He's got world-class speed. Great things can happen. I mean, that's a pick that I don't mind. I mean, this is a league where you've got to get a little bit aggressive. Like JD, there's no way he can assume Worthy is coming back to him in the 4th. Not in this league. So it was basically, and you got to take him there or risk losing him. And depending on how he had his board stacked up, that was probably the right pick for him. We'll find out what he does next, but I'm guessing he's got an idea of what he's planning to do.
All right,
the draft is paused right now. Todd is trying to unwind
it looks like
a pick here.
Looks like it is paused here. Yeah. I'm reading the chat right now.
Yeah. It's not good.
All right. The FFPC commissioner is addressing this situation. Yeah. So Josh Jacobs probably going to get repicked here. For those who are listening in so far, Jamar Chase went off of the 101, Bijan Robinson, Brock Bowers, Justin Jefferson, Ashton Genty, Saquon Barkley go 1 through 6. The back half of the first round, CeeDee Lamb, Jahmyr Gibbs, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Trey McBride at the 112. Then at the 2-1, Nico Collins, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Drake London, A.J. Brown, Devon Achane in the first half of the second round. The second half of the second, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson, George Kittle, Breece Hall to round out the end of the second. Through 2 rounds, just those first 2 rounds, Dan, what pick would you say was the most surprising or maybe a stance pick, maybe a player that you were not expecting to go where he went in the first 24 picks?
I mean, it's tough to say any of those picks are truly surprising. Breece Hall has sometimes been falling into the mid to late 3rd, but again, if you're at the 1 hole and you want Breece Hall, you got to either pick him at 212 or 301. So one's as good as the other. So I don't dislike that at all. Um, I find it interesting that Theo is going. He's got two running backs and a tight end. Theo is not normally heavy on running backs when he drafts, but you know he's kind of setting himself up. I think he's got some ideas with what he wants to do in the middle rounds there. Um, I liked Bucky Irving there. I probably would have gone Bucky Irving over Terry McLaurin if he had fallen that far. I thought a little bit about taking Bucky in when I took Garrett Wilson, but I like that Wilson pick there. So
Yeah, that was a pretty good pick. I like the target share that Wilson offers. He's one of those rare players that could get, into the 25-30. He could hit 30% target share because of who is not yet there. So there's definitely some inter-league chatter happening right now. Some of it is very respectful. Some of it is questionable. So we are seeing some resetting of picks.
Yep.
Seeing some resetting of picks. Devontae Adams seems to be all set. Bucky Irving goes at the 3-2. Terry McLaurin is your pick at the 3-3. T. Higgins, Jackson Smith, and Jigba goes off. And it looks like Josh Jacobs stays put at that spot. And Tyreek Hill at the 3-7. Chase Brown at the 3-8.
Yep. And then JD sticks with his worthy pick. So Kyron continues to fall a little bit after the misclick by Mojo. So be interesting to see if he makes it into the fourth round. I sense a lot of people are uneasy with Kyron Williams. What about you, Bradley? Are you uneasy with Kyron Williams? Or are you just like, if you saw him at this point in the draft, would you just be clicking him?
Here's my stance.
Well,
I feel like there's. Did he go off?
No. And,
okay.
And you may have a chance to click him too. So
it's possible. It's possible. And my stance on Kyron is this. I know there's a lot of chatter about split backfield. The Rams GM Les Snead has come out and said that they want to utilize a committee approach. It won't matter for me, but because Kyron goes off for a beeb at the 3-10. But I think that Sean McVay still goes with one guy. I still think he gets 60+% of the rushes. Kyron's the guy, and Blake Corum will sprinkle in because Sean McVay doesn't move away from guys unless they get hurt. Like we saw, like Darrell Henderson lose his job because he got hurt. Todd Gurley, they moved away from him because of all the injuries. So yeah, I think Kyron Williams would have to suffer an injury. Yeah. And if you're picking him in this strategy of a game, like you're picking him for the league-winning upside he could have.
Yep. All right. While you're picking, just a couple more thoughts on Kyron. Number one, when every time McVay gets asked about, any of his other running backs, he always turns the conversation back around to Kyron, which I think is kind of interesting. And also, whoever is mixing in, I think is going to at least definitely early in the season be getting more of the low value touches, just kind of taking some of the wear off of Kyron and where they can have him nice and fresh in the high leverage situations. So I think that's, I think that having a good backup is probably a good thing for Kyron long term. All right. Thanks. And then so at the 3-11, we had Omarion Hampton go off to John Daigle, and Bradley has taken Rashee Rice to close out the third round and is busily thinking on his fourth round pick, how he's going to lead off the fourth round. Is he going to go running back, wide receiver, some other position? Who knows? The suspense is killing me. Ooh, Lamar Jackson.
We are going Lamar, quarterback one off the board at the 4-1.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
I decided, it's for me, it's a coin flip between Lamar and Jaden Daniels. I view them very similarly. But with Lamar, you have Isaiah Likely who's ascending. You have Zay Flowers. You have Mark Andrews still on the team. Like Rashad Bateman blossomed last year. Finally, like he stayed healthy, played well, got the touchdowns. And for Lamar, his floor is just so high, and
his ceiling is so high too.
His ceiling is we've seen multiple MVP seasons from Lamar Jackson. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting was that he had proportionately the amount of fantasy points as a passer very similar to that of like Joe Burrow or other pocket passers last year, whereas Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, others were more in the like 60-40 split, whereas Lamar was like 75-25. And to get more of your fantasy points from passing, I think is very interesting for a player like Lamar, who we know can run. And this is also a hedge that maybe Derrick Henry finally falls off a little bit, and then they have to lean on Lamar running a little bit more. So, I'm low in my projections on Derrick Henry. Like he's not a player that I'm targeting very much. But Lamar Jackson, I like taking him. And him, Jaden Daniels, and Josh Allen, I'll rotate through as those quarterbacks at the beginning.
And I have to shout out for JD taking Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
I'm actually secretly happy about that because had he made it back to me, that would have been a real temptation for me to take him.
Yes.
And, that would have been a tough one. He doesn't really fit what my strategy is right now, but, pairing him with Terry McLaurin would have been very, very enticing.
Yeah, so no stacks for us so far there, Dan, but maybe we'll get a stack later, late in the draft. You'll probably get some nice Justin Fields value. You'll probably get some nice Geno Smith value there.
Yeah, yep, definitely. And we've got some interesting decisions coming for me just ahead. I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do here. Yeah, I've got a very good idea of what I want to do here.
All right, Dan is thinking through his pick. We see, wow, mid-4th round, Fantasy Mojo goes RJ Harvey.
Yes, he does. All right, Sam Laporta, and I'm going to make Theo a very angry man.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Tet McMillan. We should just rename your team the Mick Gorilla.
Big Gorilla. There you go.
Where was your Christian McCaffrey pick? Oh, he didn't get back to you. Trey McBride.
Yes.
We need the mix.
Well, see, now if I'd have known I was going this way, I would have, Lad McConkey almost made it to me. I should have taken Trey McBride. And then, forced Austin and Hubbard to give me McConkey, just to keep the string alive. So
you got to do it. Jalen McMillan is still on the board for you later in the draft. Ray McLeod. There you go. This is.
I have a prediction for who Theo is going to take next. I think that it's going to come around. And Theo is going either Travis Hunter or Travion Henderson. He is not going to be able to resist those guys.
No, he is a rookie fiend. He is a rookie fiend.
And I don't think Travis Hunter is a terrible pick at this point. I mean, we're 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 wide receivers in right now. So basically he just needs to be a top 24 wide receiver to return value.
Yeah, and I have projected Travis Hunter Not including Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen, I think if he lands in a decent spot, will be good. But Travis Hunter right now is my wide receiver 22. So
yep.
Travis Hunter goes off. There we go.
Oh yeah,
we see it. We see it. We feel it. We love it. It's part of the DNA now, Dan, that Travis Hunter is a thing. Wide receiver 3 for the deep end.
Yep, most definitely.
Well, one of the interesting things that I'm like toying with is Travis Hunter like projection, because at first I was very aggressive with him, like 24%, 23.5% target share was what I initially projected. And then I had to calm myself down. I had to settle myself down.
Now let's see what Theo does here. Let's see if he can resist taking the bait. Is Theo willing to forego a wide receiver?
Ooh.
The suspense.
Well, still left on the board for those who are following along. TreVeyon Henderson is still available at this spot at the 502. Joe Mixon is available. Joe Burrow is available. Jalen Hurts is available. Chuba Hubbard, Chris Godwin, Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Rome Odunze are all available.
Yep, some nice picks there for sure. Okay.
DK Metcalf. Theo has fallen into the Pittsburgh Steeler trap. That is DK Metcalf, wide receiver 1. This is interesting because I don't think DK goes at this spot without the George Pickens trade that happens today, Dan. I think it's worth diving into George Pickens' value at this spot. What do you think about the trade of Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Dallas Cowboys to fit behind CD Lamb and now out from under the thumb of Arthur Smith?
Yeah, I mean, Pickens is probably going to benefit. I mean, I would rather be the wide receiver 2 in Dallas than wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh wide receiver 1 barely gets 110 targets. The wide receiver 2, you're probably looking at 80 targets. So I think he's definitely going to do better than that in Dallas. So I like the move for him.
It's Theo calling. He's telling
Theo.
you
all right,
to hurry.
Let's get Theo on. Theo, you're on the air.
Sniped me on Ted McMillan.
I knew I did.
And I almost took TreVeyon Henderson instead of DK Metcalf. I was going to go 4 running backs, but I can't take 4 running backs. But TreVeyon was an absolute edge play right there, but I'm back in on DK.
Did I call that or what? Bradley knows.
I take Ted literally every chance I get.
Yeah.
All right, bro, listen, good luck the rest of the way. And this chat has gotten crazy, by the way.
Oh yeah, it definitely
very crazy.
has.
I thought he was joking. I thought he was completely joking.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with the chat because I've been trying to talk too much.
Been,
but yeah, it's just
been wild.
Yeah.
It's been wild.
Yeah,
it is wild.
All right, good luck the rest of the way.
All right, you too, Theo. Later.
Shout out to Theo Grumminger. Much love, Theo. Much love, Theo. Player profiler, MVP for the content the last 2 years. Shout out to you.
Indeed.
All right, Dan, we've seen TreVeyon Henderson, who you sniped Theo on, go off the board at the 5-3. Talk me through that pick. You needed a running back, right?
Yeah, I needed a running back. I like the upside on TreVeyon Henderson. I was basically looking, other than that, at some older backs, and Chuba Hubbard, which I'm a little bit concerned about what Dowdle is going to do there. They paid Dowdle a pretty good amount of money too. I think Chuba's still going to be the lead, but if he's even 20% off of what he was before, I think TreVeyon might be the pick here.
Right. Well, Chuba does go off the board to JD at the 5-9. Joe Mixon goes off at the 5-8. Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Zay Flowers go off before Mixon and Hubbard.
Yeah, you start getting into the end of the 5th round, and Hubbard starts making a little bit more sense. Because now you don't have TreVeyon, now you don't have Mixon, now you don't have Kamara.
Right.
So you're left with a few harder choices there.
Right. We're going to get rid of quarterback in these rankings. We're going to look and see that. Oh, man. Do I go with the projections lean, Dan, or do I go with my gut? You're like, your projections are wrong, Bradley. Go with your gut. It's much larger. Well, the nice thing about being at the turn,
nice
maybe I can split the difference. So let's go with well, we can split the difference. I like that. We've got 20 seconds, and we're going to take one guy that I have still been high on. Probably the biggest winner from wide receiver room in the NFL draft. Jerry Jeudy goes at the end of the 5th round. I'm a big believer in Jeudy on this Cleveland Browns offense. And then I'm also going to double tap Cleveland Browns, Quinshon Judkins. So we needed a running back. I have Jeudy and Judkins go off the board.
Yeah, I like that pair of picks. Judkins, I think, is a really good pick at that point, especially. The thing that you're probably the most concerned about, I'm guessing, is just that you're bankrolling the Cleveland offense a little bit there. But those are two good players, so hopefully it all works out. But you got to take chances like that. I mean,
this is the volume. Like at this point in the draft, who's going to get volume? Like Jerry Jeudy last year, 25% target share. Name me a wide receiver that goes off like in the next 2 rounds who is anywhere close to that. Like Waddle isn't going to get 25% without a Tyreek injury. Zay Flowers is close, but he's not going to get it. DK, who went off at the 502, isn't going to get there. Devonta Smith isn't. Dallas Goedert just renegotiated his contract. He's sticking around for 2025. Maybe it's Cortland Sutton. Maybe Chris Olave. Like, I think this is the tail end of that tier of possible wide receiver ones on their team.
Right. Yep, definitely. And,
so now...
Godwin. Yeah, and...
Godwin might not start the season.
Right. And you've got a couple other possibilities. I mean, we know Calvin Ridley is going to be probably the wide receiver 1 on his team. Stephon Diggs likely to be the wide receiver 1 on his team, but
we spent time in last week's podcast talking about how we are concerned about the Tennessee Titans offense overall.
Right.
And
exactly.
Even if Ridley is the guy, I probably have more confidence. Here's a clippable. If you're watching, we can clip this. I have more confidence that Joe Flacco can sustain fantasy goodness for Jerry Jeudy than Cam Ward can sustain fantasy goodness for Calvin Ridley. Clip that.
There you go. Okay, fair enough. I like it. All right, we're coming up on me. Let's see what Austin does here. Austin and Dave Hubbard.
We've seen some wide receivers go off the board this
Are we going to see
round.
a running back here from these guys, or are they going to go wide receiver again? It really wouldn't surprise me if they go wide receiver again, or even tight end.
Wow. George Pickens, wide receiver 33. I think that's good. I have him projected as my wide receiver 20, Dan, after this trade. I think it was a massive win for Pickens' fantasy value. He was originally going in the mid to late wide receiver 40s. There were concerns that he was just stuck under Arthur Smith's thumb, and now he's free. Dak Prescott has shown to be at times a top 5 quarterback for fantasy, and the Dallas Cowboys kind of lack an identity. They don't have a strong defense. They've got some nice parts on that defense. So for them to get into shootouts and a healthy Dak Prescott, we could look at George Pickens being a massive winner, massive value at wide receiver 33 even. So definitely rising in the boards in this hard way draft. And Dan, you go Jonnu Smith.
Yes. So I like Jonnu Smith as kind of the George Kittle of the George Kittle of Miami is a way to put it, I guess.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. right. I'm going to take a player here unless he goes to Theo. And then I'm wondering if I will be giving up on a player because I think there's a good chance somebody is going to snag him before we get all the way back to 8. But
All right, let's see. J-Mo goes off for Theo. Tony Pollard and Travis Kelce go at the 6-7 turn. I've been slowly over this offseason lowering Kelce in my rankings, Dan. That's something that, like, probably when I do my top 150 here in a couple weeks, my initial run is I will actually probably have Travis Kelce much lower than my first round of rankings that I did at the end of February, beginning of March. I think with just some of the news that we've gotten regarding Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, them drafting Jalen Royals in the 4th round, Kansas City addressing wide receiver position, I think there's a pathway for, Travis Kelce to just be lowered in your rankings. Now, him going off, as the tight end 7 is not a bad value. I think even old man strength Travis Kelce can still pull it off there. And Dan, I'm stalling the best I can for you here to make your pick. It is okay though. You got about 20 seconds.
Yep.
You picked Jonnu Smith already, and you go Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver, San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens between him and Jennings. But I think they're going to leave Jennings as the X. And I think Pearsall is going to play a little bit more in a role similar to what Debo played. And, he's a younger, healthy, all that kind of good stuff. So we like, what's possible there. Whereas Juwan Jennings could end up being one of those sacrificial X receivers a lot of the time. I mean, when he has a big game, he can have a really, really big game, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
But also Brandon Ayuk, when he comes back, I think that's going to take a little bit more shine off of Jennings than it will off of Pearsall. So I like Pearsall a little bit better than Jennings, but I do have them very, very close. Theo went the other way, so we'll see how this goes. I mean, somebody's got to knock Theo off his throne. He's won this thing 2 years in a row, I believe. He's definitely won it twice. I think it was the last 2 years. So we got to, the rest of the league needs to conspire against him a little bit.
For the projections side, I have Juwan Jennings at 136 points and half-point scoring, Pearsall at 123 in half-point scoring. So slightly more for Juwan Jennings. But you mentioned the big games are just historically there for Juwan Jennings. We saw multiple multi-touchdown games. Like, he has a 40-point burger in his back pocket. And it looks like there's not going to be really an issue with Brock Purdy. It seems like Purdy is going to be not holding out. There's not a quarterback holdout situation that we're worried about for San Francisco.
Yeah, I think Purdy is going to play. They're going to get it together. I mean, clearly San Francisco has been working towards, setting up their salary cap to handle a Purdy contract. I don't think they're going to let this thing linger too long. I mean, I think they really want to have this thing done by training camp so they can have, their quarterback there. I think they saw what happened with Ayuk when they play hardball, and I don't know if you want to play hardball with your quarterback that much. There's a certain point where you have to say, is this worth it?
Right.
Do I really want to risk pissing off my quarterback or risk him coming in late to training camp and then he's not in good shape and he gets injured, or, there's a lot of things that can happen there. And so if I were the 49ers, I would just be, make your best deal, but make sure you make it by the end of June, and, let's get him into camp.
Yeah, let's get him into camp for sure. Oh, this is an interesting spot here, Dan, because there's some running backs that are staring at me in the face. There's also a couple wide receivers that I'm very interested in. We see tight ends go off the board in this draft, 4 of them in this round: Mark Andrews, David Njoku, Evan Ingram, who I was hoping would last to me, but did not. And then Colston Loveland.
That might be my fault because
at
I
the
sort
tight
of
end
kicked off
11.
I sort of kicked off a little bit of a run with Jonnu because then we had Kelsey right after that,
Right.
just one pick away, and then we had 3 more picks, and then Andrews another pick, and Joku 2 more picks, and then Ingram and Loveland. So, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But you've got McBride, so you don't really need to worry about it. I mean, you're great
Nope.
at tight ends. So
I'm all set there.
To me,
sure.
Jonnu was kind of a luxury pick, because he was available at that spot. I thought he was a decent value at that spot. I could have gone a different way. I certainly didn't need tight end there. But now with Bowers and Jonnu, I'm really sitting great at tight end. So it frees me up even a little bit more to, just kind of play with whatever the best values are on the board. And you know what? If there's another time where I see a tight end as a really good value, hey, that's what you got 2 flexes for. So I'm not opposed to that either.
Not opposed to that.
Harris. All right.
Yeah, we had to break it open a little bit,
So, somebody who's in on the early season, Najee. Are you concerned about Amari and Hampton just running away with the job later on in the season? What are you thinking on how you plan to play your running backs there?
Yeah, of course I'm concerned. Of course I'm concerned.
Okay.
Of course I have the concern. But he's also running back 29. He was a priority free agent ad for this team. We saw last year, J.K. Dobbins handled the majority of the load as a veteran. And the team, the Chargers were hesitant to give, any of the other rookies pieces. Now, Amari and Hampton, first round draft capital, you're not going to draft him in the first round, not use him. Let's not flip this. Right. Let's not lose our minds. But also, running back is the most replaceable, piece here. And I recognize that I've put tight end, quarterback, wide receiver as priorities here. So I can take some. Najee Harris allows me to take some stabs on later running backs that I don't expect to have early season value, but I do expect Najee Harris to have early season value. I do expect for at least the first 4 weeks or so that he's going to be the guy. And I mean, yes, Amari and Hampton can have flashes. That doesn't preclude Amari and Hampton, but especially given the volume of how much the Chargers run. I mean, let me pull up where I have Harris in the projections. Najee Harris, 3.08 best ball value rating, 132 points and a half point scoring. Puts him, fine. He's at like what percent rush share? Like 46% rush share, 5 rushing touchdowns, 700 rushing yards, 30 receptions. Fine. Like I get a guy who from this strategy, I'm okay with early season spikes and then I can figure it out later.
Right. And, it is a known fact that running backs do get hurt. Unless your name, of course, is Najee Harris, then you never get hurt.
Well, this is true. This is true. But really, like the Najee Harris volume early season is all but like guaranteed. However,
I think he'll
like looking at who else is still on the board from the running back spot, like Isaiah Pacheco maybe could have been a pick there. Maybe that's one that I'm looking at and saying it's Pacheco, it's Najee Harris, but like Jalen Warren, I have Najee Harris over Jalen Warren in the rankings. I have him over Travis Etienne. I have him over Zach Charbonnet, right? It's these like RB2s on the team, and Najee Harris, he could be the RB2 on the team at the end of the season, but the projection has him as the guy to start.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's, He's gonna, and the thing is also with Najee is they might not want to put too much on Amarian's plate right away. This year, you might see Najee getting most of the passing game work, and we've seen that he's able to do that. And Todd took my Bashal Tootin pick. I was gonna, I was hoping I could get that one in. I knew when I took Pearsall there was a good chance somebody was gonna snake Tootin from me on the way back. But, that's all right. And, then I could have changed my team name to Rootin' for Tootin' instead of Sarsaparilla Gorilla. So,
I mean, you can still change it, can't you, Dan?
Well, I'm not rooting for Tootin' now. Not in this league, anyway. I'll be
maybe you change it to not rooting for Tootin'. There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
There it is. Awesome. So we see some more tight ends go off the board. Ty Warren goes off to Abib at the 8:03. Jake Ferguson in the 8th round. Tucker Kraft in the 8th round. Again. And let's see, is it Dalton Kincaid? No, Luther Burden. Wow, there we go. Yeah, Theo is probably cursing in the chat right now. Let's take a look at how the chat is going.
We've calmed down in the chat. Everything is we're a little bit back to a little bit back to normal.
Yeah, when guys are apologizing in the chat, that like the right things are happening. But also we gotta keep looking forward here and not get distracted by the fact that the chat it was imploding. Luther Burden goes off, Matthew Golden goes off, Theo Greminger has uncharacteristically
not. This is a text from Theo.
He's like, "Gosh dang it, Luther." Oh well, Golden goes off. Theo normally drafts a lot of rookies, so Matthew Golden here going off to the Green Bay Packers. I am significantly lower than consensus on Matthew Golden. Maybe that's just a flaw in my process, being blinded by Green Bay Packers gear behind me. But I just can't do it, Dan. I can't find myself to click Matthew Golden, even in the rookie dynasty drafts. I'm just not there.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. And this kicked off a little run of Burden, Golden, Igbuka. Those guys all tend to go fairly quickly one after another right. in this particular format. And normally they're going off like the 9th, 10th round. So, you can definitely see a lot of us are really reaching early for these guys. We're all thinking about late season production for sure. And we're hoping we can piece together enough early season production to keep up with the Bradleys of the world. So
yes. I mean, when you have a possible tight end one, possible quarterback one, then you guys are playing catch up, Right. Sorry to say.
Yep, exactly. No, it's you've got a really, really good start there with McBride and Lamar. Love that. Oh, Theo just did it to me. He took Brian Robinson. I was thinking he would make an ideal running back to go with Travion, but alas.
Yeah, Easy Mart goes with Cam Scadabo, first running back off the board for him, and you go Jaylen Warren, possibly the running back one in Pittsburgh.
Possibly.
Dan, possibly. That's what Mike Tomlin said, that he's excited to see Jaylen Warren, and then all of 24 hours later they draft Caleb Johnson. So,
right. I mean, we know what Warren is. Caleb Johnson definitely has a use on this team. Arthur Smith is going to use 2 running backs at least. What I'm going to hope is that, while Caleb is probably getting most of the work around the goal line, I'm hoping that Jaylen Warren really eats up a lot of passing game work and gets just enough of the action around the goal line, because he is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. So, hopefully that that will pay off well. I feel comfortable with Jaylen Warren as an RB2. It just Robinson would have put a little bit less pressure on TreVeyon Henderson to really take off right away, because I think we can count on Robinson probably being, he's not going to be an RB1 necessarily, but he's a solid RB2. He's going to hit the doubles for you. Now I'm going to need TreVeyon to get up there and smack the ball around the yard and run some bases, and let's go.
Yeah, run the bases. Let's go.
Run the bases.
And we've seen 3 quarterbacks go off the board in the last half a round or so. Patrick Mahomes goes off of the 8-12, Caleb Williams at the 9-5, and Justin Fields at the 9-6. So finally we see Caleb, finally we see Fields, and Mahomes was stacked with Travis Kelce there. So an exciting time for the stack hunters. And Dan goes with Jaylen Warren as his RB2.
Yes, indeed. Yep.
Right.
Theo got the double B Rob going. Bijan and Brian. So very, very nice job there. And we're starting to see some more quarterbacks go off. Yeah, with Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields. It's a little bit early on Fields, but I like the pick there. If he plays a full season, that's I think a great pick. Todd, I think, has recovered nicely from his 3rd round pick that he was not happy about, but I think he's got a pretty good team going there, so it's going to be fun to see how this thing turns out. I'm liking sitting there with 5 wide receivers. I'm putting myself in a little bit of a hole at running back, but on the other hand, I can burn a lot of picks at running back if I feel it needs. So it's all good.
Yeah, and looking at who is available, like you haven't gone quarterback yet. There's still very solid quarterbacks just hanging out. So you can see who might be available for you. Now I'm kind of scrambling for who's going to be, my wide receiver 5, because I've got 4 of them right now. And it's a slimmer pickings. Jacoby Myers, certainly I felt like happy with that pick. But now we're getting into like the Jalen McMillans of the world, who I probably should save for you so you can stay on brand. But
Yeah, go ahead.
You're like, go right ahead, Bradley. Yes. Go right ahead.
You do what you feel you need to do here.
Do you feel called to join the Mick Club, Bradley? Is that what you want?
Well, you've already got a Mick of your own, so you might as well get the double Mickey.
Yeah, double Mickey. A McDouble, There we go. I knew there was a pun in there somewhere. I'm going to go with someone that people have left for dead, and that is wide receiver Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp off the board. Nice. Yeah. I'm happy with that. Once again, early season production. Let's go, baby. And then I think we should... Well, I think that player will come back to me.
So we have, and this, by the way, for Bradley's team, he's got Trey McBride at tight end. Then he took Nico Collins, Rashee Rice, Omar Jackson, Jerry Jeudy, Quinshon Judkins, Najee Harris, Jacoby Myers, Cooper Kupp. So you've got 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 5 wide receiver, 1 tight end.
Now 6 wide receivers.
6. And I love the Shaheed pick. I think that's a bully pick right there.
Let's go.
You are the first to 6 wide receivers, so kudos for that. And and I love that Shaheed pick. I mean, he did so well last year before he got hurt. Olave went basically 5 rounds prior to your pick, and
right.
So that's a great value. Olave has health problems of his own, so
right. And Shaheed seems to be on pace to return. He had an MCL deal but he was earning 25% of the target share with Derek Carr there. There's some mixed signals about what's happening with Derek Carr. So I'm just going to lean into I'm gonna lean into the variance there in terms of like if Shaheed hits, he's gonna hit hard. He's not going to be, and that's why I'm like I move away from the guys like a Jalen McMillan. Like a 90th percentile outcome for Jalen McMillan is like wide receiver 24 on the week. A 95th percentile outcome for Rashid Shaheed is wide receiver 5 on a week.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And really,
as my wide receiver 6, I'm taking no risk there. Like we either know he's healthy or he's not healthy, and if he is healthy, we can plug him into the lineup.
Right, exactly, and that's that's kind of the thing. Once you get past your first 4 wide receivers, then you can start, playing games with upside too. With thus the Luther Burden pick where I took him, and I don't have to rely on Burden. I mean, I can fill my flex. With, I've got 4 wide receivers already drafted before him and 2 tight ends. So I've got 2 wide receivers and a tight end who can potentially go in the flex before I even start thinking about Burden, which of course presumes that I've drafted perfectly so far, which obviously I must have, right?
You must have. You must have.
I must have.
So we see Josh Downs go off the board right after. And I was toying around with the concept of the 2 Indy wide receivers who went off the board after my Shaheed pick, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman. The Podfather and I went back and forth right after the draft with this Ty Warren selection because Ty Warren goes in the first round to the Indianapolis Colts. And my take was that Josh Downs was the big loser for the Indianapolis Colts from a fantasy football perspective. I thought that Ty Warren and Josh Downs would overlap in terms of play, but Matt believed that Michael Pittman was the guy who would be hurt the most. So, wow, Jaden Blue, that is early. Wow.
I was planning on taking him. He actually sniped me right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is early, but wow. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
We're gonna take the consolation prize.
Oh, Javonte Williams. Look, someone's gonna win from there. Someone's gonna be a big winner. So,
yeah, that's
funny.
One of those picks where it's like I think Williams is gonna give me some early season production, and it may take Travion a little bit of time to get up to speed. I could have gone with Ramondre Stevenson, and paired up Travion and Ramondre, but I would rather have the double upside. What if Javonte just takes the job and runs with it? What if Jaden Blue isn't really that good? There's a lot of things to worry about there. So, I think this is going to help my running back room. That was more of a structural pick than anything else. It's not that I'm terribly impressed with Javonte Williams, but I also know that Dallas will stubbornly stick with 3 yards in a cloud of dust for a long time before they get off it. So,
Javonte Williams is my projected running back 35, and in this draft he goes off as RB 40. So pretty good value there, Dan.
Yeah.
Fine.
I'll take it for sure.
I think he's
Ray Davis was also on my queue, so I probably would have taken him had he come back to me. So nice job by Theo there. I think that's a great pick as well. He's got James Cook, so he doubled up. Because Cook is definitely a risk to hold out, and anybody who holds out kind of definitely turns into an injury risk. So that's I think that was a smart pick by Theo there. I like that.
Love it. And now we're getting into the handcuff running back run, the possible Jordan Mason, Jaden Blue, Javonte Williams, question mark, Ray Davis, Trey Benson now goes off. It's now who's your favorite handcuff running back? So we can continue to see this slide for a while. There's some other guys that I've queued up and we'll see if they come back to me, because I only have 2 running backs right now. It's just Quinshon Judkins and Najee Harris. So I think it makes sense for me to now start taking some more of these handcuff running backs from, as you mentioned, a structural perspective.
Yep, exactly. And so hopefully this run will die out pretty quick, and you'll still have some really good possibilities left in front of you. I mean, I think that this running back, the draft is just deep in running backs. I mean, you can sit here and make just lottery ticket after lottery ticket after lottery ticket. You throw enough lottery tickets at it, which you have, you're sitting totally fine at your other positions. So you can sit there and throw lottery tickets at running back for basically as long as you want to.
Yeah, keep taking your lottery tickets like Isaac Guerrero. He was in my queue, Dan. That was a good lottery pick,
Yeah, I'm not sure if he would have made it past John Daigle at Team 11, who does have Christian McCaffrey. Depending on how Daigle wanted to play it. I mean, he might be going, hey, I'm going all in. I'm going to believe that my picks are right. I'm not taking my own handcuff. Or he might have wanted him. Who knows?
Yeah, because Guerrero is definitely in the realm of he gets drafted. Like there aren't very many running backs in these types of drafts that go undrafted that are the clear handcuffs. So
yes, definitely.
Yeah, I'm just filling my queue right now with said handcuffs.
There you go. All right.
This is great. Kyle Williams goes off. I feel like that's early for Kyle Williams. Maybe I'm off on that, Dan, but I'm still not confident that New England is able to give anything sort of from fantasy goodness perspective. I wasn't impressed with the needle moving that might have had to happen as a result of the fallout from the draft. I wasn't confident with that.
Well, what I can tell you is David Hubbard does a lot of rookie scouting, and Austin Martin he's a crack dynasty player. I mean, there are few dynasty players that are Austin's equal, and Hubbard does all of his rookie scouting just for redraft. And
right.
The two of them make a very, very potent combination. And if they're taking Kyle Williams early like that, I think they've got a really good feeling about him. So interesting pick. That's one tandem. When I see them take a player, I'm like, maybe I should be thinking about that player, especially if I haven't been thinking about that player too much.
Yeah, we see Brenton Strange. Love seeing Brenton Strange go off as another tight end. I love the Brenton Strange pick. A big winner from the Jacksonville Jaguars draft. There wasn't they traded up for Travis Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
They traded up for Travis Hunter, but then Evan Ingram is gone. Christian Kirk is gone. There's Gabe Davis cut. So it's Travis Hunter, it's Brian Thomas, and then maybe De'Ami Brown, Brenton Strange.
Yeah, I mean, De'Ami Brown will play that third wide receiver role. He's probably going to play the X in this offense, and they're probably going to be flip-flopping Hunter and Brian Thomas between the Y and the slot, or the Z in the slot, excuse me. But I think Strange is going to be on the field most of pretty much every play, and so that's a great target right there. He actually kept Tyler Warren on the in the backup role at Penn State a couple of years ago. So he's a pretty good player.
Well, we see Strange go off, get second round draft capital a couple years ago. Keon Coleman, Bo Nix, Trey Harris, round 2, wide receiver to the Chargers. We see another handcuff running back, Jalen Wright, go off. and then I'm going to be up here in a couple picks.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, so we got a Beeb Beeb's got a pretty balanced team, but he and I and Theo are the only ones without a quarterback at this point.
All right, I am on the clock, and now it's handcuff running back time, Dan. One of the things that I look for in a handcuff running back are two things. I look for two things. One is where is his number one running back going? Where's that guy going? And two, has that player proven to be any good in some capacity? And the first guy, I think, is just he's undervalued, and it's Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier has proven 1,000-yard rusher before, super efficient. If Bijan Robinson goes down, it's just the Tyler Algier show. So give me Algier, and then
I like that.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm all here for that. And the other one is a forgotten about running back in some capacities because there's a new shiny toy on the team. But Blake Corum, welcome to the squad.
There you
I think, yeah, let's go, baby. I love those two picks, especially Algier. He's just had a soft spot in my heart for years. And, if he ends up hitting, then great. My team is in real good shape. So I'm taking a lot of swings on picks here, but that's what I need to do when only going with those two running backs.
Yeah, fair enough. I like it. I've got to kind of figure out a little bit where I'm going with my next pick.
That is A-OK. So we see Darnell Mooney go off the block here. We see a kicker. And then a kicker, sir, Beeb.
I'm not surprised. Beeb is never afraid to take that early kicker, especially when it's Aubrey. He regards Aubrey as a difference maker. I was actually considering Aubrey as well in this round. And that's, I mean, doesn't that seem crazy, Bradley, when you're like, yeah, I'm going to take my kicker before I take my quarterback?
Maybe. That's not.
I mean, it's an unusual draft strategy.
Especially given that, like, we are 9 picks in for quarterback. We've seen 9 quarterbacks go off the board. The way quarterbacks have fallen in this draft, not that I don't regret the Lamar Jackson pick. It gives me stability for sure. And round 4 for an elite quarterback, I also feel like is a good value.
There's no reason to regret that. And also, you saw Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels go off.
Right. It was the same tier. Yeah, exactly. It was the right spot for him.
Right.
But also, I'm looking at, like, man, oh, man, if
somebody was taking that plunge, he was not coming back to you in the 5th round for sure.
No. But, we look at who's still on the board right now in round 12, and it's Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, who have both historically have had top 5 quarterback seasons. But even if you look at where the top 5 quarterbacks were, like, they're giving you plus 6 rounds of value. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels could give you the equivalent of, like, yes, we don't draft quarterbacks in round 1, but they can provide value in their 95th percentile outcome of a round 1 player just because they have massive games.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. And I got to do a quick look and see.
All right. I'm getting some updates from 32 beat writers. One of the Dallas Cowboys beat writers said, from what I've gathered this afternoon, George Pickens is excited to join the Cowboys. This is Calvin Watkins at Calvin Watkins on X. Is excited to join the Cowboys. The unsettled quarterback situation in Pittsburgh had him concerned about his future. Had him concerned about his future. Dallas's settled quarterback situation in Dak Prescott was an attraction for him. Playing with CD is something he believes will benefit him. He is willing to prove himself and says that he is not going to immediately sign a contract. All right, you go Dylan Sampson After Marshawn Lloyd, Tank Bigsby, Devin Neal, Ramondre Stevenson, Tazi Spears all go off, man, oh man, these backup running backs
the
are
backup run is going hot
they're getting
and heavy.
slurped.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I felt like I had to, take another shot at running back there because they are just
my Q got
so
just
fast.
decimated right now.
Right?
Boy.
And Theo goes with quarterback. I think that's a good pick for him there.
Yeah, Baker's a good pick.
Baker Mayfield at that point of the draft. I mean, quarterback 10. That's nice indeed. And the deep end took my Jack Beck.
Jack Beck.
Yeah.
DJ Giddens goes off too. Oh, he was in my queue. Oof.
Yep.
Wowza. All right. Let's see. Who else is out there? Let's see if there's any tier breakers in terms of players that are out there right now. We've got quarterback. We're not going quarterback here. I still need to hit up running back. I'm just continuing to fill my queue with lesser running back options. It's ugly.
I'm gonna take the other end of your bet here.
Yeah, Jarquez Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Blake Corum crushed in college. He was a 3rd round pick. I like him. It does have me at least eyebrow raise a little bit that they went running back again with Hunter. And some people I respect in the industry really do like Hunter, and they view him similar to Blake Corum. So Brashard Smith also goes off. Wow.
Yep, definitely.
Smith as the Kansas City running back. All right. Very, very good. Well, I'm going to hop off for just a second. I'm going to check in with a few people. Dan will hold on the fort. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
All right. Sounds good, Bradley. So we're in round 13. Basically, my strategy here is I went wide receiver and tight end heavy early. I have since been hammering running backs. We have Travion Henderson in the 5th, and then I took, starting in the 9th round, Jalen Warren, Javonte Williams, Isaac Guerrero, Dylan Sampson, Jarquez Hunter, which sets me up with, I've got a couple guys, Jalen Warren and Javonte Williams, I should be able to count on early in the season. I've got Travion Henderson, who should, I think, become a fantastic lead back for me coming down the stretch. And then now I've got some lottery picks as well with Isaac Guerrero, Dylan Sampson, Jarquez Hunter. Those are all, I think all of them potentially have some standalone value, but the real value would be is if they suddenly inherited the lead role. So, and on the 13th round, we have DJ Giddens went first. Theo double tapped at quarterback on the 12-13 turn. He took Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Like that tandem a lot. I mean, you get kind of the one guy who runs and the one guy with Baker who's a little bit more of a pocket passer. But this is, I think, a really good tandem, so he's going to be just fine at quarterback. Abib and I are the only ones who haven't taken a quarterback yet. So we'll see where that goes. Taj Brooks goes off to Mojo. Rashad White goes to the Go Bills guys. By the way, we should also just kind of run through who all's in this draft exactly. I know we haven't really covered that. But the deep end, that's Adam Krautwurst and Mike Shope. And they, I mean, Mike is the voice of the Buffalo Bills. Adam is, they're both very well-known high-stakes drafters in the FFPC. Theo Grimminger probably needs no introduction, especially to anybody who's been hanging around Player Profiler for a while. We're sad to see him go, but he's definitely a shark in these leagues as well. We've got myself in the 3rd hole, and then I was talking earlier about David Hubbard and Austin Martin. David Hubbard has won the he's won one of the season-long grand prizes before. It was about 10 years ago, so I think it was a $250,000 grand prize, but still an enormous prize. And then Austin Martin won the one of the playoff challenges for a cool $500,000. Noah Riddell, fantastic all-around player. He does dynasty, he does best ball, he does DFS. I mean, he does seasonal leagues like this. He's fantastic. Todd, Run to Daylight podcast host from way back. Todd Burrows, also regular in the FFPC streets. Very good best ball drafter. We know the Fantasy Mojo, Darren Amrani, who gives us our excellent ADP data. The Go Bills, who won back-to-back titles in the main event, FFPC main event. JD, my once and future podcast partner. We still will be doing some podcasts from time to time, but he's always a great sight in these streets as well. And like me, he does a lot of best ball, dynasty, seasonal, a little bit of everything. Abib Agbatoba, he is the winner of 2 straight of the old football guys contest, which is now the Big Gorilla. And we have John Daigle, who is well known in the industry and also plays a lot of the FFPC, and of course our own Bradley Stalder, who is my co-host on this podcast and is working and Braylon. That's a solid couple picks there, so that sets him up in pretty good stead. And I'm going to have to start looking at my own draft and what the heck am I going to do? All right. And Jordan James went off to Abib. I think that's an interesting handcuff. He's also in San Francisco. So yet another handcuff to Christian McCaffrey. Like that pick a lot. We've also seen a couple rookie tight ends go off the board. Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo just went off. Hunter Henry just went off as well. I like that pick by JD. That's a player I would have strongly considered when it came down to me around 14 here. So I think that was a solid pick for him, especially with Evan Ingram. And he's got Mason Taylor, Hunter Henry. That's a solid tight end room. He can kind of piece it together. He's got good running backs, great quarterback. He went early at wide receiver, so he's in good shape there. He's got a nice solid squad developing, so I like that team. And we have the Go Bills guys debating on what they want to do here. I'm thinking they're probably going running back. Let's see what happens. And they are using all of their clock. No, they go tight end. So, okay, Theo Johnson, that's an interesting pick. Probably the Giants tight end 1. Had some flashes last year, so I think that's a nice pick as well. So their tight end room is Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, and Theo Johnson. Those are basically 3 guys who haven't been heavily in favor, but they are probably going to end up being good picks, especially as late as what they went. We had a lot of tight ends in this draft go kind of in rounds basically 7 through 10. We saw over a dozen tight ends go off in those 4 rounds, so that's pretty solid. And now people are kind of picking up the pieces. Oh, and Mojo goes with Dak Prescott. That was a player I was probably going to go with had I had a chance, but that's all right. I have another player in mind. Hopefully he'll make it to us. All right. I'm going to hope I don't regret sending this guy around the horn, but anyway, I'm going to pick a quarterback here. And this kind of matches up with my Travion Henderson pick. Gives me a little bit of, it's not exactly a stack with a quarterback and a running back, but that can be effective. They definitely correlate well together, especially with the running back who catches passes as well as Travion Henderson. So I feel pretty good about that. I've waited. Basically, myself and Abib were the last two to pick a quarterback. Abib is going to win that title since I've taken one already, and he's through 14 rounds, does not have his quarterback yet, and this is I think a great strategy. If you don't get one of the early guys where you have an elite quarterback, there's no sense reaching because there are some really good options going later in the draft. So once we got past like Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts, I was kind of out of the quarterback business, and I figured I'd jump back in after I solidified my running back room. So it kind of gave me several picks where I could really focus on the running back room. I already had 2 tight ends on the board. I already had 5 wide receivers. And at wide receiver, I'll probably take another one, but if I don't, it's not going to be the end of the world for me. So, and I think I'm going to get the guy that I want here, unless Theo snipes me. I was worried that Austin and Hub might take him because I think Austin likes the player that I'm hoping to take as well. But we'll see what Theo does here. Theo did finally come back and take a second tight end after Kittle. He took Juwan Johnson. That's a favorite pick of mine, too. I like him because he goes super late. I mean, you can basically get him. He's kind of a tight end 3, and New Orleans signed him to a big contract. I think he's going to be an important part of that offense. Especially if they're breaking in rookie quarterbacks, a lot of times it's easier to throw to the tight ends. He's really like a big slot wide receiver, so love that pick there. And I'm going to take one of my favorite clicks throughout the entire offseason so far, Mr. J.J. McCarthy. All right, and then Elijah Mitchell goes off. I thought about waiting later to take McCarthy. I think I might have been able to get him at the 16-17 turn, but with Abib not yet having a quarterback, it concerned me that he could double tap, and that would be a likely player to double tap. So I went ahead and I'm going to let Abib win the quarterback battle. He gets to be the last one to select a quarterback, but I was able to double tap late. So I've spent a 14th and a 15th round pick on quarterback. I think I've got a couple of good young possibilities here. And, if one of these guys really pans out, or if somehow both of them pan out, I'm going to be sitting really, really good at the quarterback position. So, and if not, I'll have to work my way through the waiver wire. That probably won't be pretty. But again, these leagues like this, you've got to take a few calculated risks to make it work out. And that was one of the risks I was willing to take because some of these guys are just not even going to take a second quarterback. And I know that from past leagues with them. So that means that I had a better chance of being able to double tap on one late. And still probably, if I need to on the first waiver run, I can get a quarterback there as well. I don't think I'll need to, though. And I'm betting Abib is going to take Jared Goff somewhere on this turn. But we'll find out. And I've got to start thinking about who I want to take. All right. So Brock Purdy goes at quarterback. So Abib finally breaks the seal at the end of the 15th round. Austin Eckler, that's a really nice pick by John Daigle. I like that a lot. Probably would have been a good pick for Bradley had he been able to make it, but I think Bradley's still sitting all right. I'm just going to quickly load up a few guys in my queue here so that I don't get caught out. And it's getting tougher and tougher to find players that I really want to draft. But that's all right. That usually means it's time to pivot to a different position. So we have some possibilities here. Okay. And Bradley went with Chig Okonkwo and Brandon McManus. So Bradley is, yes, the last to dip his toe into the tight end 2 pool. He now has somebody to go with Trey McBride. But that's the advantage of picking somebody early. You can take a very late selection for your tight end 2. And, myself, since I was able to get Jonnu Smith, if I don't take another tight end, I'm going to be just fine. I'm not too worried about it. We are starting to see a few kickers and defenses going off the board, which means that there's a lot of other drafters here who are kind of seeing the board the same as me, that, we've picked most of the good players, so maybe it's time to just go ahead and lock in that kicker and defense while there's a good one on the board that you like. So we'll see what happens here. There is a couple players that I would be tempted to take when it comes around to me. Will Shipley, I think that's a great pick. Saquon Barkley may not be indestructible. He certainly looked like he was last year, but if anything happens to Saquon, that is, that's going to be a pick you really, really like, because there's really not much competition for Shipley in that backfield. Justin Herbert goes to Todd's team, and Noah is up. Noah has one quarterback as well, Caleb Williams. There are 4 teams that just have 6 teams that still have just one quarterback. So, again, I wouldn't be surprised if several of those teams don't just stick with one quarterback the rest of the way. So, we may not see too many quarterbacks go off the board from here. Structurally, I'm probably looking at there is a quarterback that I like here. I might just pick 3 quarterbacks because, again, they came so cheap to me. I can probably afford to spend the extra pick on it, but if he goes, I'm not going to be concerned about it at all. All right. Nick Chubb. Love it. And I think I'm just going to do the quarterback thing. And there it is. We're adding Jared Goff to the squad. With Goff, we're looking at a quarterback in the 16th round. I now have May, McCarthy, Goff. I'm set at quarterback, more than set at quarterback, and I spent very little draft capital to do it. Because basically in these rounds, you're seeing picks like, and I don't want to disparage anybody's picks, but, Cedric Tillman and Audric Estime and, Woody Marks and Ollie Gordon and Miles Sanders and, Xavier Legette. We're talking about low probability players here that are going to be, like meaningful contributors. Can they chip in on a bye week or something? Maybe, get lucky and, run into the starting job for a couple weeks, possibly as well. But they're players that you're not going to miss not having on your team, especially when you've been loading up earlier at those positions. So 3 quarterbacks, I am more than good at quarterback. Keenan Allen goes off. That was another player I was thinking about taking. When Nick Chubb went, that kind of signaled that Keenan Allen might go. but that's all right. I've got still 5 wide receivers. I still feel very good about those. And I am probably going to go ahead and take a kicker here, unless Theo Still's my guy. And there are still a couple of semi-fun wide receivers left. So we're kind of getting down into the realm where when you're picking, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, these are guys that you're going to be very, very willing to just shuffle right off of your team in the first waiver run if they haven't secured a meaningful role by that time. They're the guys that you're going to keep pushing. You're just basically going to keep churning at the bottom of your roster and keep trying to push promising guys onto your roster and push guys that aren't really doing anything off. So we're going to do Kaimi Fairbairn here. So 4th place kicker has gone off the board. I did have the Vikings defense in my queue. I think that's a very good pick. They're very much of an attacking defense. If the Vikings offense is good, that puts a lot of pressure on the opposing offense to start having to pass more, and then the Vikings can do their pass rushing thing. So basically, when you force the other team to pass and you know they've got to pass, that means that you have an opportunity to harass their quarterback. You get hurries, and then that's how picks and fumbles and everything else, sacks, all those kind of things happen. And sometimes pick sixes too. Nice pick by Todd, run to daylight. We're on round 17, pick 6. He took Alec Aomenor, who went to Tennessee. And I think he could definitely work his way into a great role in the wide receiver room there. So like that pick a lot. All right, and let me see. I'm gonna see if I can get the draft up on the screen. I may have to. There we go. Okay, so we got a draft board up so that you, the viewer, can see what's going on. All right, so interestingly enough, Abib has taken 4 rookie tight ends: Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Elijah Arroyo, and Terrence Ferguson. I think that's a very, very interesting choice. He is definitely looking for that rookie magic that we saw from Sam Laporta and Brock Bowers the past couple of years. And, he's got some decent options for it. And then our own Bradley has gone with Ben Sinnott and good old QJ, Quentin Johnson. That's not a bad pick either. He still may hold down a role in the Chargers offense, but I think it's actually almost as likely that they end up trading him off to a team that's looking for a wide receiver. That really wouldn't surprise me at all if that happened. All right, Jerome Ford, 3rd Cleveland back, goes off. And then Abib did the same thing I did. He grabbed a 3rd quarterback, so he has Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, and Anthony Richardson. That's a nice late bet on quarterback. So he has kind of a similar thought process to what I have, trying to get that high upside at quarterback without spending a lot to do it. And I think unless some defenses go off here. I'm probably going to take a defense. And I may take the Houston defense, even though I have that place kicker as well. Yeah. I'll probably shy away from it just for that reason, because trying to replace both your kicker and defense at once means that you need to, you need to cut 2 players, or you need to run without at one or both of those positions, which I don't really like doing. So I have another couple of good options for defense, and I think I'll go with one of them. All right, Kareem Hunt goes off the board. An oldie big goodie. Aronde Gadsden for tight end. I like that. He could definitely make some noise as the tight end for the Chargers. I like that a lot. And things are looking pretty sparse at tight end for sure. We're down to, let's see, tight end 32, 33. Tight end 34 has gone off the board. So, and there's tight end 35. So we have, everybody is loading up on tight ends. I like the strategy. I don't need to worry about it as much. I feel real good with my 2. If one of those guys gets hurt, yeah, I'm in trouble. But on the other hand, I mean, you can't draft scared. You've got to draft how you think is going to play out the best for your team. Like I could have grabbed a tight end where I was grabbing one of those quarterbacks. I could have grabbed a tight end where I was grabbing one of those running backs. I just didn't really feel the need for it. So, and also Austin and Hubbard have saved me from the Houston defense. I think I'm going to go with the Baltimore defense. An oldie but a goodie. All right, and then Theo is up. And I think I am unlikely to take any more wide receivers, tight ends, or quarterbacks. I definitely don't plan to take any more kickers or defenses. So I think we're going to go running backs for these last 2 picks. I like to have a lot of lottery tickets at running back because they're easy to swap out. You can usually find a wide receiver or 2 that fire off at the beginning of the season that you can add if you need to. But I've got 5 wide receivers I like a lot. I don't really know that I need any more than that, especially not with the receivers that are down here. Jalen Royals was a nice pick. Don't mind that one at all. Okay, and we're into the 19th round. So Evan McPherson leads off the 19th round. Let's see what Theo does. He and I both have kickers in defense, so I think he's probably going to go, I think he's most likely to go running back or wide receiver here because he has Kittle and Juwan Johnson. He just has 2 tight ends, and I think that's definitely a good strategy for him where he's sitting, and especially where the tight end position is right now. It's tough to find any good value at tight end. But he's thinking hard about this pick. Oh, he goes into second defense, Pittsburgh. I like that. I'm going to take a shot at the Bears backfield just because I think it's going to be a valuable one. Roschon Johnson went off 4 rounds before this. DeAndre Swift went off in the 7th round. So I think Kyle Monange is a fun pick there. And if he's I can just go ahead and, let him go and get somebody else on the team. So not a big deal there. All right. And it looks like a few other people are back on the running back train, just like me. Try to get those last running back or two. Several people need both kicker and defense. So we'll be seeing those go off. Daniel Carlson for the Raiders. I like that pick. I hadn't really, since I mostly have been doing best ball slims, I haven't really thought about Carlson. But I think with Genty and the improved offense, I think that's a good pick. I think they might be kicking a lot more field goals this year than they did last year. Another pick I really liked was JD took Pat Bryant. That's a fun wide receiver in Denver. Sean Payton has comped him to Michael Thomas, and that's a pretty darn nice comp. And he does have some draft capital with him too. Bryant was taken in the 3rd round. A lot of the draft community considered that to be a reach, but we know that Jacksonville at least was also in on Pat Bryant and had been hoping to take him in the 4th round. So I think that's just an interesting pick by Denver and also an interesting pick by JD. Tyler Higbee, possibly the last of the relevant tight ends to go off the board. There are a couple of other possibilities that people have been kind of overlooking here, but when Terrence Ferguson goes off 2 rounds before Tyler Higbee, things are a little bit topsy-turvy, and every drafter in this draft is really looking for the upside. So it's and Tyler Conklin goes off. That's again, Aronde Gadsden went off before Conklin. So another rookie going off before the veteran that you'd think the veteran would probably be the one who starts off the year at least. So some interesting picks at tight end here. And then we got Raheem Mostert for Bradley, and let's see what he finishes off with. And I do see a couple tight ends left on the board that, unless my final running back pick gets taken, I'm probably not going to go tight end. But I do have 1 wide receiver, 1 running back that are still on my board. And if not, then I'll go tight end. All right, Bradley goes with the KC defense. Patriots defense goes 2002. Abib's final pick, Dalton Schultz, and he's a Texans fan, so he gets himself 1 veteran tight end to go with his 4 rookie tight ends. And Abib, interestingly enough, has 4 running backs on his roster, and that's it. Kyron Williams, Ken Walker, Travis Etienne, Jordan James. You have to assume 3 of those are probably going to have roles. Jordan James, I don't know. It could happen, but he's choosing to run awfully thin at running back and just use the waiver wire to pick up some running backs that will hopefully help him out down the stretch, I'm sure. So interesting strategy there. Justice Hill, I like that. If anything happens to Derrick Henry, Justice Hill is really probably going to be the lead of a committee in Baltimore. And so that, I think, makes him a good pick. And people just aren't taking him. So it's that's one of those picks where you can get him on the 20th round in pretty much any draft that you want to. And he's going to have some standalone value. And he's got a lot of contingent value if anything happens to Derrick Henry. So I like that. And we have Todd making his last pick. He's going to have to take a defense here. And he's running the clock down. Oh, he probably left the draft room. All right. And then Joshua Palmer goes off. That's a decent pick. Austin and Hubbard. And if they don't take Sean Tucker, I'm going to take Sean Tucker here. Reason being that we have Rachaad White on the last year of his contract. So he's a player that might end up getting moved. And so, if he does get moved, then Sean Tucker is the backup. And honestly, Rachaad White does not look good as a runner. So, if anything happens to Bucky Irving, I think that Sean Tucker is going to get a healthy piece of the job. I don't think he's going to be the lead back necessarily, unless, of course, they send Rachaad White packing. But otherwise, he's at least going to get a chunk of that backfield. So, and of course,
hey, Sean Tucker. There we go, baby. Of course, you spend the entire time while I'm gone talking about Sean Tucker, and then you get sniped on Sean Tucker. No one is watching this, Dan. This is a recording. We're recording this. We started at 8 p.m. Wednesday, May 7th, and no one is watching. This is happening post facto. No one can know that Dan just got sniped. This is a disaster zone move. Sorry, Dan.
No.
Nothing like getting sniped in the 20th round of your hardway draft. That's how you know we are all degenerates. This is beautiful.
Oh my
Dan.
gosh. You can't make it up. You cannot make it up.
You most certainly cannot.
All right. Well, we're gonna roll a different way then. I'm gonna go with Deontay Johnson, and the logic there is basically he's probably going to talk his way out of Cleveland, or he's going to be a big part of their offense. One of the two, and I'm probably gonna have a pretty good idea of which one it is by the time the season starts. So either I just got a high volume wide receiver almost free, or more likely I have a player that I can just dump and grab somebody else. But, you want to have high upside options. So,
I love it. I love it, Dan. The Deontay Johnson pick, that was a play that after the draft, I was checking the projections, and inside the projections there was still a massive target share not yet claimed. And so, who's going to take that? And then the Browns post-draft almost immediately take Deontay Johnson. So I really like that pick. Dan, you go Baltimore defense, Fairbairn, and you triple tap Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Jared Goff. JJ McCarthy was in my queue, Dan, and I was hoping that I would take a second quarterback, but I, in fact, did not take a second quarterback. So good work on that.
I thought about taking Goff where I took Drake May. I knew I was taking JJ McCarthy on the way back from that pick, and I had, Goff and May were definitely in consideration there, but as it turns out, I decided to go May just because they've got the correlation with Henderson.
Yeah.
But then when Goff was still there, when it came back, I was like, okay, I can't let that stand any longer. I'm just going to go ahead and take him. I feel good at all my other positions, so I'm going to splurge and take that third quarterback.
All right, Dan. Looking at these teams, I don't think there were too many picks that stood like way out. There were a couple that like I wouldn't have made that selection. I still think Jalen Waddle went too early. I think there's it's hard for me to see how Waddle can pay off as long as Tyreek Hill is there. I know that yes, Tyreek Hill, trade rumors, blah, blah, blah. But Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 27 in the same ranges as Zay Flowers, like we are secure with the Zay Flowers. We're pretty secure with the Devonta Smith. I am less sure about like that Jalen Waddle pick, and I know that was the first pick that that Todd made from his little nap that he took, but that led to a little bit of drama in the chat. But nevertheless, Jalen Waddle there, I don't see a pathway for him to be like the wide receiver one. What are your thoughts on Jalen Waddle?
I mean, the pathway there is just that, if Tyreek Hill gets traded or if Tyreek Hill just actually sucks and, the risk issue wasn't the problem, the problem was he's just old. And
too many babies popping out,
Yeah, something like that. But it's, I don't know. I mean, I think Waddle has a path, but Tyreek Hill has to get out of the way for that path to exist. So one way or another, you're kind of counting on Tyreek Hill not being there. But I do know people that are betting strongly against Hill, and if you're going to bet strongly against Hill, then you probably should be betting on Waddle. I'm sure that he was thinking, hey, Waddle is not coming back to me in the 6, and I think that's definitely accurate. I think by the time it came back around, there was no way that Waddle was going to be there. So. Sometimes when you're in the middle of the board, you have to make a decision on a player because you're going to watch, 12 picks go by before you get to go at it again.
Right.
It's more pronounced, obviously, on the ends of the board where we were, where, you're watching 22 picks go by.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you've got like 18 picks to go by.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, and what we do is, when we're sitting on the end of the board, we got to just say, hey, who are the 2 players that aren't going to come back that I most want on my team? And I don't care, like at the 7-3 at Ricky Pearsall, I was like, he is not coming back to me.
Yeah.
Bashal Tootin, not coming back to me. I had to decide, do I want Pearsall or do I want Tootin?
You almost got Tootin. He almost came back. But
he almost did,
quite.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm still going to be okay if Tootin doesn't come back. I would have definitely taken Tootin over Burden had he come back. He was only a couple picks away, but yeah, it's, you got to make those choices. I knew what I was planning on doing in the 8th, and when I went back around to the 9th, after losing out on Brian Robinson, I'm like, yeah, I got to get Jaylen Warren. I got to get a player who can, for sure give me some touches. And, so that's the guy that I definitely don't see coming back that I need the most out of anybody. So, or out of any of the players that are likely to go. So who were Bradley, who were some of yours like that where you're like looking at it and going, I'm definitely taking this guy even though it seems a little bit early?
I knew Jacoby Myers wasn't going to come back to me at the 8-1. He's, a big play. Like, I think he's comparable in fantasy production and like value to Tyler Lockett, how he was just undervalued, a player that will consistently, hit the lineup. And that's trying to shift my brain from, I want upside, I want spike weeks. It doesn't matter. Like, I want to hit the peaks. And Jacoby Myers is like, I will just be a consistent contributor for you in the flex. And that's what I need from Jacoby Myers. So, his role is solid. He operated alongside Brock Bowers before, and the consistent target share, the touchdowns. Geno Smith now, as the quarterback, there's increased competency there. Ashton Genty will help move the ball down the field. So I'm more confident in like a rising tide lifts all boats scenario for Jacoby Myers because he was already successful on bad New England teams and bad Vegas Raiders teams. So that was a player that I knew like I wanted to be targeting. When it came to like the running backs, because you saw me take 4 running backs in a row in rounds 11, 12, 13, and 14. All of them handcuffs, all of them players that, I took Algier and Corum while we were on the air together, but Dowdle and Allen are players that I felt fit similarly as well, and I wasn't willing to wait, to see and find out. Like they're just going to be tapped right there.
And I really like the Dowdle pick. I think it structurally fits very well. Because you've got Judkins and Najee Harris, and those guys are, Judkins should have a big role all season. Najee Harris should have a role definitely at the beginning of the season. But Rico Dowdle just kind of gives you that third running back that you can count on, I think, to probably get you, probably 8-10 points almost every week and upside from there. So, I see Dowdle as being, kind of an RB3 type, who you got at like RB5 prices.
Yeah, I was very happy with the Dowdle pick. I'm surprised he slid so much in this draft.
I really, honestly, almost took him when I took Jarquez Hunter.
Yeah.
But I knew Hunter wasn't coming back to me. I thought there might be some chance that everybody was, getting so hooked on the handcuffs that they might let Dowdle slip right on around back to me. But I should have known that my partner, Bradley, would foil that dream.
Yes, dream foiled for sure. I took last round or second to last round Raheem Mostert, and I was able to barely get on with the guys in the FFPC, and they were really wanting me to pick a sexy pick and like an outlandish pick and a no-namer, and I was like, well, how about the guy who scored 20 touchdowns 2 years ago? How about that guy? And they're like,
you go.
Okay.
Love it. No, I think that was a good pick too. I mean, Ashton Genty's a rookie.
Yeah, Ashton Genty's a rookie. What if he gets injured? We saw, what was it, it wasn't a couple years ago, but it was years and years ago where like Darius Geis, remember, got hurt. He tore his ACL in like preseason something. Was out for the year, and then Washington was by committee. I don't even remember who like stepped in for Geis, but we saw running backs, get injured right before the start of the season, and then you get to Raheem Mostert, who can just step in and he can flash, he can have big games, and those are the types of running backs like. I'm not taking as many handcuff running backs in the best ball streets. This is where I'm just hammering them because the waiver wire is going to be fierce. I'd rather like get out in front of the waiver wire here and just take one, like save myself some fab, save myself some worry, and just load up on these waiver wire running backs because yes, you can get waiver wire wide receivers, but it's hard to do that in the hard way draft in this type of environment. I'd rather take shots on guys, that I can get ahead of in terms of waiver wire.
Yep, definitely. So
awesome.
I'm looking through the hard way chat. Everybody's talking about who got sniped. Theo was tilting about Justice Hill and Josh Palmer. He thought for sure he was getting one of those.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens to the best of us.
Yep. That it does.
The chat never fails to provide goodness. I took Quentin Johnston at 18-1, Dan. I felt like that's out of place. I feel like he should be closer to like Rashad Bateman, Jalen McMillan, Cedric Tillman era. Was he just forgotten, or is the market right to be moving him down so far?
I think basically, since he's a holdover from the previous regime and they drafted Trey Harris, I think, and they got Mike Williams back.
You love Mike Williams.
I didn't take him. I could have. He was available.
You should have.
But I think that people are just kind of penciling him out of, they kind of have him as the wide receiver 4 maybe in the Chargers lineup. And I don't know, that might be a mistake because, I mean, Mike Williams might be cooked for one. The other thing is they could look to trade Quentin Johnson as well. He was he a first-round pick?
He was a first-round pick, wide receiver
pick in the NFL.
37 last year, 8 touchdowns, 55 for 711, 13 yards per reception, almost 1,000 air yards. This was a player with a 97th percentile burst score and an 89th percentile catch radius. First-round pick out of TCU. Yeah, he struggled his rookie year, but like you can't be upset with a top 36 or so wide receiver season. And Trey Harris, I love Trey Harris, the player. Don't get me wrong, but it's Trey Harris maybe on the outside, Quentin Johnson on the other, and then Ladd McConkey in the slot. There's your offense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely could be. So I don't hate the pick at all. Especially that late. I mean, my gosh, he's wide receiver.
71.
71. Come on. I did. Yeah, I mean, barely any wide receivers even went after him. There were only 5 wide receivers that went after you took QJ.
Right.
Pat Bryant, I talked a little bit about that. I thought that was a really good pick. Who knows if he'll turn into anything, but at least Sean Payton's been comping him to Michael Thomas. So, you've got that to fall back on. I'm not sure how many points that's worth, but
Michael Thomas depends on if he has an ankle or not.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that was pre-ankle injury, but you never know.
I should, one of the players I've been taking Isaac Tesla in a lot of my rookie 3rd round drafts for Dynasty, and Dante Thornton in round 4 of my Dynasty rookie drafts. I've just been clicking those guys. I don't know, Dan. It's just I have a sickness.
Yeah, well, you better be prepared to get boycotted for the Tesla.
Oh, well, if it's in Detroit, the car manufacturers might be pretty upset. The Fords and GMs and everything would not like the Tesla, even though he is on the Detroit Lions. Dan, okay, let's do this. Who wins this league?
Oh man, that's really tough to handicap right now.
Make the call, Dan. Make the prediction.
It's going to be me, of course.
Yes.
There's a bunch of good teams. I really like. If Noah's team could come together nicely. I like Austin and Hubbard's team. They're a little bit late at wide receiver, but again, they got 3 great wide receivers. They've got 3 really solid tight ends. I think they're planning on playing tight ends in the flex. They've got a good quarterback. They've got a bazillion running back lottery tickets. They're a team that could finish first or finish 12th, and that's kind of what you're shooting for. I'm not interested in finishing, 5th or 6th place in this league. I would prefer to finish top 2, certainly finish within the top 4, and other than that, I don't care if I don't finish in one of those 4 spots. I'll take 12th place. It just doesn't matter. Theo's team is very nice too. I like Theo's team a lot. I think you and I did well from our spots, but if I'm going to pick teams that aren't yours and aren't mine, probably Theo and Austin I think did very nicely.
Yeah.
Go Bills guys, that team looks pretty solid too.
The Go Bills guys, they always put together a strong, and they stacked Hollywood and Travis and Pat Mahomes.
Oh, that's deep end. I was looking at team 8.
Oh, deep end. I'm sorry. Go Bills is there. My bad. Yeah. I misread it. Go Bills.
It's not surprising because the deep end crew are Bills fans as well. So
yes, I think I agree with you. I like the Gibbs pick there. Chase Brown's a big winner. Jalen Hurts at the QB 4.65 is a nice value there. Getting Calvin Ridley that late. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, Theo Johnson, getting the Philly D. That's a real solid team. I like Noah's team. Ashton Genty, JSN, Zay Flowers. He's got solid wide receivers. Quarterback of Caleb. My affinity for Caleb Williams this year. So
yes.
So there's some bias there, but there we go. Great, Dan. Any last words before we sign off for the viewers, for the listeners, for the people at home?
I think that covers it for me. Always a blast doing a podcast with you, Bradley, and especially drafting against you. A lot of fun. I'm glad we were at opposite ends of the draft, so we didn't have to sit there and snipe each other.
Very good. Well, on behalf of Dan, I'm Bradley. Till next time, good luck in the fantasy football streets, everybody.
Hey, why do we partner with the FFPC? Because they have the widest variety of fantasy football formats, and it's the easiest place to find all types of fantasy football contests in the world. What if you want to play for high stakes? Well, they have a $6 million prize pool with their Fantasy Players Championship. They also have way too early best ball leagues that start in February and dynasty leagues. They have the closest thing to a liquid market for orphans that there is in all of Dynasty. And the FFPC has sponsored us for half a decade because we are actually delivering information that can help fantasy gamers, and they're generating so much interest and bringing in so many new users, casual users even. The FFPC creates a unique experience where you can both compete against the best and make money. Use promo code UNDERWORLD to get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team at the FFPC with promo code UNDERWORLD.